Hello guys, again here. I'm going to show you a new project. I know you are excited to see this OSL. So I'm going to explain you how I create this OSL on an easy way and always thinking on you. So keep calm because I'm going to explain you all the tricks I have to show you. And remember, we want to show you this project, a new project, because I want to show you more and more content. So this video tutorial, it's to you. The idea to create this OSL, because I know sometimes you are scared about the airbrush, because my way to paint, I explain you that you have to paint everything with your brush, and then at the end of everything, it's the moment to use the airbrush. So I'm going to explain you, and I'm going to break my own rules all time, as you know. And we will start with the airbrush at the beginning. Why? Just to try to test painting with the airbrush. Just for that. Because at the end of everything, you will paint again with the airbrush. So I recommend you for this OSL, start with the airbrush. How you have to paint with the airbrush. The idea will be create like a capibases, but you have to dilute more your painting. The idea is not like when you paint with glazes, like 90% water and 10% paint. The idea is more like 60-40, something like that, or 70-30, something like that. And you'll see that with your first layer, the color won't be the same, don't want exactly the same as your pot. So you have to dry the surface and then paint again new layer. Maybe you will need to paint with 5 layers, maybe, but don't worry because you are painting with airbrush. Will be quickly. So keep calm, enjoy painting with airbrush. Another trick that you have to know, when you are painting with airbrush, you have to find the correct angle. And if you don't know what kind of angle it's the correct angle to you, remember that we want to represent in that model 2 OSL. So you have to focus the highest light on 2 points. The first one will be the flames, right? Because it's obvious. The flames should be one focus point. And the other one will be the hand. So you have 2 options. The first one, the easy options I want to give you, it's paint the magic on her hand with the same color, green. You don't have to use exactly the same green. I didn't use it. So the idea will be paint with different nuances, change a bit, move the temperature, move to blue or move to yellow, something like that about this green. And the other one, it's the same. It's just try to make some changes, just that, okay? Little changes. And if you paint both with green, at the end will be easier to you to control. Because for example, if you want to paint the flames with green, the same color I used, and then you want to represent a red magic on her hand, maybe the result could be awesome. Maybe it will be the best result, but will be tough, will be hard to control everything because you will use the complementary color on the hand and the other color, the other complementary red or magenta and green on the other side. So in some moments when you blend with airbrush, when you blend with your brush, when you change something, maybe at the end the result will be a bit like brown because you are desaturating everything, or where you mix both colors. So in some areas the light won't look like light, because we look dirt. So to fix that, please try to paint the OSL easy, as I explained you, just with one color. And then if you want to change to blue, move to blue or move to yellow, just move it, just that, something easy. But remember, we want to paint a lot of miniatures, not only one. So please don't be frustrated. Don't try to raise the bar all the time. Don't try to raise the bar on every project. Try to paint a project, enjoy, feel the feedback, and then try to discover what kind of stuff are difficult to you or easy to you now, and focus attention where you need. If you want to enjoy, just try to paint something that you control. For example, if you love paint non-metallics metal now, try to paint something only with non-metallics. And then if you want to paint something hard because it's tough to you, for example, like this OSL, it's the moment to try to push the bar and go for it. But always try to be smart. If you want to represent one OSL, it will be easier than two. But if you want to represent two OSL, as I did, try to think about, if I choose a similar color, similar green, will be easier to me than if I want to use a completely different color, like the complementary. However, if you see now on the cape, I use black color with another color, like violet, magenta, something like that. Why? Because I want to get a deep black. Okay, this is super important. Sometimes when you paint black, it looks like gray. It's not super intensive black. So to have this intensity in the black, inside of the black, you have to mix with something with more powerful, like deep blue, deep green, deep magenta maybe, or violet, something like that. Never with yellow, okay? Because with yellow the result won't work. Just that. So the idea will be mixed with, for example, violet in that case, or magenta, because it's the complementary from the green, right? So you will have something stronger now between this green, super saturated with a lot of light, and the other side you will have the complementary color, magenta or violet, desaturated and super dark color. So this is the idea. You have to create this hard contrast between the light, the shadow, between the saturation, desaturation. Okay, this is super important. And then if you play between complementary colors, awesome. Your result will be awesome. For example, if you start with the green, it's perfect because you have a white as background. You primed the model with white, and then you paint with the airbrush over it. You will need maybe 3, 4, 5 layers to cover and have like a capibase with the airbrush. But don't try to find only one angle and paint just there. You have to paint like 70% with green. Why? Because if you only paint with this green, the perfect angle, and then you paint over it on the top of the model with black, maybe in the middle, in some midtones, you will have the white color as background. So you will have like a gray color in your midtones. So this will be really hard to fix it at the end. So for that, paint with green more than you should paint. And then paint with black where you know that you have to paint with the black color. And then in the middle, you will create like a grays between this green and black, and will be work perfectly because we look like the ambient on that model from this OSL. For example, about the face, it's exactly the same. We can start with this green because we want to represent OSLs. At the end, if you remember the box art, I painted the eyes from her with another OSL on her eyes. So 3 OSL on that model, all of them completely different because I want to show you everything, a lot of tricks, and always easy, in an easy way, okay? I don't want to feel that you are frustrated painting on that way. And for that, we started with airbrush. If you have a perfect control about your brush and you want to paint everything with brush, perfect, do it. Just that, you can do it. But if you want to test with the brush, with the airbrush, you don't know well how to use, how dilute the paint. At the beginning, you can test. Super easy, because what happens if you made a mistake? You only have to prime again, just that. And maybe with the next layer, if you will paint with something darker, it's just use the airbrush to prime with the new color on that. Just that. So don't feel stressed about you have to prime 3 times. Sometimes I prime with the spray. I spray over the model 3 times or 4 times. 2 with black and 2 with white. Nothing happened. Just that, don't worry. Just enjoy. And now, as you are watching on the video, I'm trying to aim very, very well with the airbrush to create this sketch about the non-metallic metals directly on my model. And as you see, I'm trying to paint super close to the model, trying to paint thin lines. For sure, this is just the sketch. Remember, then after this, we will use the brush to paint everything. So if something is wrong, you don't like it, something like that, fix it with your brush. Just that. I show you the way to use the brush, so you don't have excuses now. And now is the moment for these flames and use my brush. What happened about the flames? You have to create some focus on the flames. If you paint everything with the same green, or the light on the top of the flames, or every flame have mid-tones and lights, at the end will look boring, like artificial, it's not natural. So you have to create something like random, abstract, like flames, but you have to create the body of every flame. Why? Because it's a sculpture. So you have to draw the volumes from this sculpture. How you should paint them or build up these volumes. Like another material, just that. The only thing that you have to know is that you have to create the highest contrast that you ever painted. That means that sometimes you have to paint with pure white or very, very, very close to pure white because the light, it's white. And if you want to change this light to another color, this color have to be completely saturated, powerful, with a lot of light inside, like a pure green in that case. So, some moments you have to decide where you want to represent with more lights, some flames. All flame, you don't have to paint just one light, okay? It's the whole flame or some lights. You will discover and you will find the way to represent better. Sometimes when you want to paint, go into the light, when you are painting an OSL like this, you desaturate too much the flames. So you will lose this green color. So how you have to work on that way? The idea, as always I explain in another video tutorials, it's start with the first shadow. So, but in that moment, we started with a pure green like that. So next layers will have white. For sure, you can play with greens, with more yellow, or with greens, with more blue, to help you to control this. But at the end, you will need to add white, or ivory, or something like that. So, if you don't want to lose all the green, maybe you need to reinforce some shadows. But Sergio, you told me that the light, it's powerful, have a lot of color. Why I have to add shadows on that? With a saturated green, but darker, just that. And then you will have a perfect sketch or perfect base coat to repaint again with your brush, with exactly your previous green on that area. And you will have enough contrast and you won't lose the saturation from the green. Okay? And for example, if you see now the video, I'm using foam to create this, like little sparkles around it. Why not? You have to create flames. Some sparkles could be nice. And this is just the sketch, so don't worry. Just create the sketch, create the sparkles, how you can imagine, just that. And then with your brush, trying to think, aim well where you want, you will fix or you will add new sparkles. But now our flame start to look different, right? So this is the idea. And now is the moment that I told you that you have to paint something darker. But dark means saturated color. And if I use a green, I'm going to use a saturated dark green. And I'm going to test just that. Maybe in some moments I'm going to use just like a glaze and will be perfect. And in some moments, maybe I need to reinforce some shadows because I have to do it, just that. So it's just play with that, enjoy. Always I told you, you have to enjoy, because maybe you have inside of your, I don't know, in your room, 18 models, and I need you paint all of these 18 models and then buy a new one to paint it. Because this is your hobby, you have to enjoy and paint models. For example, another trick. If you paint the base, maybe in your mind you think that if you have a focus with a lot of light, like flames, the earth in that case, on the bottom of this miniature, the bottom of these flames, you will think that you have a lot of light and should be lighter or similar like the flames, more or less. Maybe you're right, but I'm going to give you one key. If you paint with something darker, like a dark earth or dark sun, at the end will work as a frame and will work perfectly. Why? Because you will have light in the middle, a powerful with this light, lighter, the best light you ever painted. On the top you will have something darker, and on the bottom again something darker. So you will play between something really, really dark and something really, really light. So will works perfectly. If you paint the sun with the same green or similar, at the end will look like a scale gray and never will work. It's the same like the cape. If you change this black color for a different gray or maybe red or another color, maybe it will work if you paint with something really, really dark. But the truth is, if you use something desaturated and really dark, will work perfectly than if you paint with a new color. And as you see with the airbrush, it's just tiny touches. Testing, just that. You have to reinforce all the time everything. So this is just a sketch. If something you don't like it, change for new information. Just that. If something to you works, keep it. Or try to focus more attention on that to add more information on the same way to get something more interesting. For example, something that I never explained you, because I always break my own rules. So I have a lot of tricks to explain you because constantly I continue working to break my own rules. So next break I'm going to bring something completely different. You will kill me sometimes. So the idea now will be paint the skin on that model with the airbrush too. But if I told you that you have to paint with the airbrush over a white color, a white background, why Sergio is painting over a black background? Because I want something desaturated. I need to paint the skin with a skin tone, but a desaturated skin tone. Why? Exactly the same I told you at the beginning of this video. Because if you understand that the most saturated part have to be the flames or the magic effect on the hand, you will understand that the rest of everything, all of the materials, every stuff will have something, will have less light and less saturation. Just that. So it's the way to work easier than if you understand that you have to follow all my keys from another video tutorials to paint the skin. Because if you paint a perfect skin, super saturated, as that I explain in other video tutorials, at the end maybe you will have exactly the same light on the skin than on the on the flames. So I don't recommend you. If you want to do it, do it. But I recommend you paint with a desaturated skin. And the idea to start with airbrush is just to give you different ways to start, just that. Because maybe you don't understand well the volumes about this face, or maybe you don't know how to paint a female face. For sure, you can start with the airbrush will help you, but then you have to understand that some volumes you need to draw them with your brush. For example, the jaw muscle. I always explain you that you have to paint the jaw, because it's really interesting. If you don't paint the jaw, at the end looks like she can't eat. And she need eat because she need to create magic. Okay, with the airbrush, as you see, it's super easy, quickly. And now is the moment to paint with your brush. How you will paint with your brush? The idea about that is just reinforce something else. Just that because you painted not all, but you paint all the midtones, or more or less a lot of midtones and some lights. So now the moment is just focus attention in some places. The first one where you have to focus more attention will be the eyes. Why? Because I always explain you the eyes, super important in a face. Why I painted like makeup with a black lining? This dark lining or outlining around the eyes, it's to create a makeup. But the truth is I made a trick. The idea to paint with this dark color, it's because then I want to paint with an OSL on the eyes. So if I create a frame with a dark color, will be perfect. Much better than if you paint with another color, a skin tone, for example. So this is another trick. You have to play to create this contrast, a fake contrast, but with makeup could be great. Paint the lips and paint everything. The trick when you start with the airbrush, it's don't use the pure capibases, okay? The idea will be create these capibases, I explained you, that mix the paint about 50-50, okay? You have to mix the paint between 50% water and 50% paint, something like that. Why? Because you will have more control to paint the layers. For sure, you have to paint maybe with 3, 4, or 5 layers, and you will see the brush stroke. But at the end, with the airbrush, will be easier to you to blend that than if you start with the pure capibases. Because if you use exactly the same color with your brush than you use with your airbrush, at the end won't be the same. So to fix that, I recommend you mix with a bit of water, like 50-50 or 60-40, something like that, to create these glazes, but perfectly to cover with 3-4. It's okay to create the jaw and everything that you are watching now. As you see, you can see perfectly the brush stroke, but it's a bit more smooth than if you paint with the pure capibase. And for example, keep attention on how I use the brush. I paint with the point of my brush all time, trying to create thin lines. If you want to say brush stroke, it's okay, but I think it's not the best word to say for that. It's not stippling, it's not brush stroke, it's something different, because I try to aim perfectly and try to paint thinner and only using the point of my brush. Super soft. For example, you can see that in some areas I keep the green tone because I want to represent something fancy or fantasy on her skin. So basically this was all this video tutorial, the first one about this project. So I hope you have enjoyed watching this video tutorial. enjoying painting on that model, and for sure I hope see you in the next video tutorial, next streaming, or something like that. So again, thank you very much for your huge support, because it's awesome have this possibility or opportunity to give you all my heart. Thank you. Bye bye.